Hello and welcome back to the Dugout podcast. This is episode number 89. We are joining you today after a weekend of drama and action in Scotland. We had some upsets, we had some fights. Just Scottish football, I think, encapsulated the good and the bad in one weekend. Of course, the Scottish Cup quarter-finals were the main talking point. However, there was a league game as well to discuss, a big upset in that game also. So, yeah, as always, I'm joined by my co host, Ethan Barlow, to go over all of the weekend's action. Ethan, firstly, how are you doing, mate? And secondly, what a weekend.
Yeah, it was excellent weekend on the pitch, off the pitch. Some less savoury moments, you could say, in some of the games. I think probably know what games I'm referring to, but yeah, five big outcomes as well. Obviously, a couple upsets if you want to put it that way. But I will say that for the people that watched or didn't watch the preview or not the preview, talking about last week's game and we done a prediction, I did get all of the Scottish Cup semi-finals right, not to brag. But I certainly didn't get the one we're going to talk about first. Dundee beating Motherwell, excellent result again for Stephen Presley's team. And maybe that is Motherwell out of the title race, but there might be a few other sides that I might want to make the same argument for in a minute. But how's yourself, Alex?
Yeah, no, I'm fine, mate. I'm fine. I'm a bit still got a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I'm gonna be authentic here. I'm gonna be real. Yeah, I'm still a bit raw, I guess you could say, from yesterday's result. Um, just really, really frustrating. Over the course of things. I mean, we'll get into it, but I mean, when your best penalty taker rattles the bar on the first penalty, I think you know how it's going to go. But um, yeah, it was. I'm okay. I'm happy to be on to talk about more football, and I'll get through it. But first of all, we have you mentioned there Dundee versus Motherwell, and Elvis got the big win over Jens Bertholascu. A 2-1 victory for the Dark Blues at Dens Park. Tony Yogian opened the scoring in the 32nd minute. And then Callum Slattery then equalised in the 78th. But then Dundee came back again, Finlay Robertson, with the winner in the 84th minute. And a massive upset in this. Obviously, the game in hand for Motherwell and Dundee. Dundee now within 2 points of their neighbours, their city rivals, Dundee United. And Motherwell now 4 points behind Rangers, 5 points behind Celtic, and 10 points behind Hearts. So, yeah, Ethan, what obviously you alluded to in your sort of opening there, none of us were really expecting this.
No, I thought it would be a difficult game for Motherwell, but I thought it was a potential banana skin for them, but I didn't expect them to lose. I thought they would have won the game. But credit to Dundee and Stephen Presley, they keep surprising like they've done all season. An excellent result for them, and I think like we touched on last week that we expect the two Dundee clubs to be the strongest in that bottom six, and I think it certainly it looked that way. Possibly with the Scottish Cup games giving more evidence to that with some of the performances from some of the teams in the bottom six as well. So yeah, a massive result for Dundee. A lot of credit to them because Motherwell have been such a difficult team to beat across the entirety of the season, especially recently on the run they've been on. I think they've been the best team as of late, and yeah, I think this might be the game that just takes it a step too far in the league because it was going to be an already really uphill battle for them with almost no margin for error, and now it is, I think, verging on very, very improbable that Motherwell will win the league now because I don't know, there is almost no margin for error. They would have to win, I think, pretty much every game. Obviously, you expect the other three to possibly drop points, but Motherwell have still got to play Celtic twice. They've still got to play Hearts twice. They've obviously got to go to Ibrox again as well. So, yeah, it's going to be really difficult for Motherwell. But maybe if they can beat Celtic next weekend, that big match on Saturday, then they can at least improve their chances of getting a second or third place finish. Because I still think they're well within their reach. But I think the gap between them and Hearts is possibly too big now. But I think that might make that case for the other two sides ahead of them as well, with especially with how they're all playing. But yeah, credit to Dundee. They took their two goals well. An excellent free kick from Callum Slattery in between, and you thought Motherwell did get that equaliser with just over 10 minutes to go. They'd throw the kitchen sink at it to try and get the winner, and that's what they done. And Dundee catch him on the counter, and Finlay Robertson gets the goal, the first one for him in a while, I believe. I'll have to actually check when the last one he scored was, but yeah, Stephen Paisley's done an excellent job and keeps proving everyone wrong, including ourselves.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'd probably agree. I think Motherwell are. It's just too much for them now. They need to leapfrog the two teams in front of them, and obviously get catch up to Hearts. I think it's just too much of an uphill battle. I don't think leapfrogging the two teams in front of them would be particularly hard, but I think doing that and catching up to Hearts would be very, very difficult for Motherwell, and this result just makes it all the more difficult. But yeah, that's the state of play in the league. Everyone is now on the same amount of games played, which is great for my football OCD. I hate it when there's games in hand and someone's played two more games than another. It just when I'm looking at the table, I just really don't I don't like looking at it like that. So yeah, it's all square now in terms of games played in the league, and now we can enjoy the run in and the drama as we head into the final stages of the season.
Yeah. Sorry, just I was just going to make a last point on this. We spoke about a big game for Motherwell next week, an opportunity to bounce back against Celtic on the Saturday, and I was just working out there. That Hearts would only need to win six of their last 9 games or accumulate 18 points to, I think, guarantee that they finish above Motherwell, and you would expect them to do that. And look at the other side, that for Dundee, they've got an excellent fixture to come up next weekend as well. They obviously host United in the derby, so that's an opportunity for Dundee to really prove their credentials for that seventh place. If they were to win, they would obviously leapfrog United. On the other side of it, if United were to win, that would be a massive buffer between the two sides going into the remaining 8 games of the season and the final 3 before the split, which is going to be so exciting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Moving on to the Friday night Scottish Cup quarter final, we had Falkirk taking on Dundee United, and Falkirk did get the win to progress to Hampden. Barney Stewart with the opening goal. I believe it was a Calvin Miller shot saved and pushed out by Maynard Brewer, Dundee United's goalkeeper, and Barney Stewart was there to nod in the rebound. It was still a good header, to be fair. It wasn't as if he was like 3 yards out or whatever. He just knocked it in. It was a good header from Barney Stewart. Poor defending from Dundee United. The defenders like statues. Maybe you could, I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit harsh. Maybe you could say Maynard Brewer should do a little bit better. But with the way he saved it. But yeah, Barney Stewart scores again, and Falkirk took the lead. They doubled their advantage just over 10 minutes later through Finn Yates. And then just before half time, Julius Eskison got a goal back for Dundee United, but it turned out to not be enough in the end, and Falkirk progressed to the Scottish Cup semi-final. Before we just get into like the game, Ethan, and speaking about it, what a season for Falkirk! Back in the back in the Scottish Premiership, they look a cert for a top six finish. They might even make it to fifth. Their first season back, and now they're at Hampden in a Scottish Cup semi-final. It's tremendous from John McGlynn.
Yeah, excellent. What a job he's done, and I think he'll be right at the top of the candidates list for the manager of the season again. I think he's won it the last two seasons, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, excellent achievements in both of them. So, yeah, he's done an excellent job since becoming the Falkirk manager, and what an well, just what an excellent job he's done to take them up from League One, struggling in that, to get back-to-back promotions, and then not only get into the Scottish Premiership but compete in the Scottish Cup. And yeah, I think on another day they might have been they could have easily lost this match, I would say, because despite Falkirk starting the game really well, getting the two early goals, two well taken goals as well. Nice, as you said, nice header from Barney Stewart. He still has a lot to do, and I think if he can keep up his form, he'll be another one that'll be on Steve Clarke's radar. I don't think he'll do enough to get in that squad,
He's
but
he's he's one that I'm more open to because it's he's young, it's fresh, it's maybe something you could build on for the future, as opposed to Kevin Nisbet, where I've seen it doesn't work. Been there, done that. I'm open to players like Barney Stewart who could be part of the future Scotland squad, but in case anyone jumps in and calls me hypocritical, but he's one I would be open to giving an opportunity. Kieran Bowie got his first goal for Hellas Verona at the weekend as well, so
yeah,
maybe he'll be making a late run to play himself back into the Scotland squad also.
yeah, I think Kieran Bowie will be in there. I think it'll be I was saying yesterday, I think it'll be the four you would expect of Kieran Bowie, Lauren Shanklin, Shea Adams, and Lyndon Dykes. I know it's not very, it may be exciting, but I think that'll be what Steve Clarke goes for, and it'll take a lot for any player to really break into that, I would say, obviously barring injuries. But I think Barney Stewart's got a chance, especially if he can score at the rate he has done this season and maybe throw in a few more hat tricks and help Falkirk to a even more memorable season in terms of winning the cup than what it already has been. And then obviously Dundee United get back into the game after Finn Yates got the second header. Um, Julius Eskison, who came off the bench, it was a bit of a kind of goal that came against the run of play at the time. It was a decent match. It was quite open, but I thought Falkirk looked a lot better. But in the second half, it was a completely different game. Dundee United smelt blood, and they looked like they were going to get an equaliser. Zach Sapsford had one come off the inside of the post, and Scott Bain caught it, fortunately, on the line. And there was another one, I think it was Johnny Russell, who came on and looked really sharp, who had a one-on-one with Scott Bain that was saved well by the goalkeeper as well. So, yeah, they rode their luck a little bit in the second half, Falkirk, but Dundee United can't have any complaints when you give away two goals in the opening 20 odd minutes. Then it's always going to be an uphill battle, and it proved to be too much of a challenge for the visitors, and Falkirk get the win like many people expected. And yeah, an excellent season for them. For Dundee United, disappointing, and now really all the probably focusing on is getting bragging rights above their rivals, and finishing above them. And obviously they'll have a massive opportunity to really improve their case for that, as I said, speaking about the previous game.
Yeah, sorry, I was a little bit distracted there. I was looking at the stats from Sunday's game in the Old Firm, and I couldn't believe it. But sorry, we'll move on to Saturday night's game, um, where Dunfermline hosted Aberdeen at East End Park, and me and Ethan both backed the Pars to get the win. I think we both backed narrow wins. I don't think we were expecting this. Neil Lennon's Dunfermline cruised through to Hampden, a 3-0 victory over Peter Leven's Aberdeen. Um, some terrific finishes in there. Some, just poor play from Aberdeen. And yeah, absolutely tremendous. Matty Todd with the opening goal. I can't believe they've got two Todds in the same team. In the 14th minute before Ollie Thomas doubled their advantage in the 22nd. And then he got his brace in the 61st, securing a 3-0 victory for Dunfermline. I mean, when you look at the goals, you can see, you know, you can obviously it's not like a big stadium, but you can see what it means. You can hear the noise from the fans. It's absolutely tremendous, and it's a dream season in terms of cup competitions for the Dunfermline fans, and of course they've been rewarded with a derby in the semi final.
Yeah, an excellent reward for Dunfermline and their great run, and they've not had it easy either. I know the last round was maybe favourable against Celtic Hearts, but to beat Hibs and Aberdeen, I know Hibs were terrible on that day when they won 1-0, sorry, East End Park, and Aberdeen are a really bad lot, possibly I would say the worst team in the Scottish Premiership at the moment. And I think we were maybe saying it was too far to worry about any relegation problems in terms of the 11th place, but Aberdeen are in complete free fall at the minute. An embarrassing season for them, an embarrassing night for them, and excellent credit though goes to Neil Lennon and these players because what a performance they did. Although we sort of said they could win the game and expected them to win the game, they still need to go out and do it. That's exactly what they've done. They dominated Aberdeen from minute 1 to 90. They obviously get the early 2 goal cushion like Falkirk did the night before, and then they built on that, held on to the lead, and then obviously got a goal in the second half as well. And I think it could have been more. It wasn't really against the run of play either. The Fairland were completely the better side, and
Oh, I
yeah,
think
I really worry about Aberdeen.
Aberdeen started pretty well, but then after Dunfermline got that opening goal, they just completely collapsed, just went into their shells, and Dunfermline just from then on in they just took the bull by the horns and just walked through the game. I think they to a man, they gave everything. You could see the aggression, the fight, just you know they were willing to die on the pitch, and yeah, it was great, great performance from Dunfermline, and I always I love to see a team you maybe don't expect making their way into these sort of latter stages of the competition. I backed Partick Thistle to do the same. Unfortunately, they didn't. But it is nice to see for Dunfermline Athletic. And like I said, we've got a cracking semi final set up. And I'm sure whoever wins that semi final would fancy their chances against the winner of the other one because I just feel like any team in this competition could win it, which is strange considering Celtic are still in it. Normally, when Celtic are in it at this stage, you think, okay, Celtic are going to win the Scottish Cup. But I think Celtic have shown that they are susceptible to a defeat. They are susceptible to a poor performance, which even though they did get the result, um, I think I'm safe in saying they were poor yesterday again. I think they were fortunate. They came up against the most toothless side I've ever seen uh, in terms of attack and play, and some excellent defending, obviously from Austin Trusty. But we'll get more in depth on that. But I feel like Dunfermline, Falkirk, and St Mirren are all in with a major shout of winning this competition. I think that's part of the reason we have the excitement in the league, we have the excitement in the Scottish Cup as well.
Yeah, exactly. They will all fancy their chances, and for both Falkirk and Dunfermline, an excellent day that'll be to face off each other against each other. But I don't think they would have ever imagined that they would face off each against each other as sort of local rivals in a Scottish Cup semi final. It's a rarity enough, both of them, or one of them making the semi final, never mind both of them making it and both playing against each other. I think the last time Falkirk were in the semi final was 2015 when they got to the final and lost. And for Dunfermline, I believe it was 2009 the last time. So quite a wait for both of them and an excellent opportunity to go to the final. They'll both see it as, and as you said, Celtic have shown that the performance wise that they're just miles off it, as we'll get on to. But yeah, I still have Celtic as overwhelming favourites despite that, and I think majority of people will. But that doesn't mean that, like we've already seen this season, teams in this competition have um, proven that wrong already this season in big matches like St Mirren.
Yeah. moving on to the game on Sunday, Rangers versus Celtic. 120 minutes with no goals. Well, there were two goals, but they were both rightfully ruled out. For first from Liam Scales for offside, the second from Emmanuel Fernandez for a double handball. So yeah, it then went to penalties, and Celtic came out the victors 4-2 on penalties. The statistic that I was looking at that just shocked me when I got distracted earlier in this episode, and it's made me even more raging that Rangers didn't win this game. I didn't realize it at the time. Celtic had one shot in the entirety of the 120 minutes. I I can't I can't believe that. I can't believe Rangers didn't win. I mean, just so Rangers toothless up front. I mean, Yusuf Chermiti had some good opportunities. Austin Trusty with some heroic defending. There was an amazing double block. I think it was in the second half that he pulled off. You know, he was just putting his body on the line. Um, but Rio Tati, I think, had a good game as well in terms of in the middle of the park. But I just Rangers sort of toothlessness going forward. I mean, because I don't, I, I don't want to sound like a bitter Rangers fan going, oh, we should have won the game because Rangers were the better team. I think over the course of the 120, and I think you would be blind or delusional not to see that they were the better team over the course of the game. However, they couldn't put any good attacking moves together. Their sort of game was all about being aggressive and outworking Celtic, and but when they got into the final third, it just seemed like they didn't know what to do half the time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think I said last week that despite Rangers starting the game really well and being on top, and obviously getting the two goals with two moments of quality, which were a bit of a rarity for Yusuf Chermiti across the course of his whole Rangers career in front of goal, and I think that's what we've seen from him on Sunday. But I agree with you. I think Rangers, despite all the possession they had, they didn't really look like scoring. I never really thought Rangers are going to score here. Obviously, as the game goes on, the amount of possession, momentum, shots Rangers had compared to Celtic, you would favour Rangers to get the goal over Celtic, but they never really put Celtic under too much pressure. And I think, unlike Rangers last week, allowing, I think we said that maybe Rangers sat off it in the second half and allowed Celtic back into the game. You could say Celtic done the same and Rangers just couldn't break them down, but I don't think that Celtic did do that. I just think Celtic were really, really poor. And I think there was three Celtic players that got past marks. I think you mentioned two of them. I thought Austin Trusty was excellent, and that's why when he comes back from his suspension, which he'll obviously be suspended for the game next week against Motherwell as well, because it's a league suspension. I thought he was excellent at the back. But Jami Sanasawa, I mean, he had a really great game, coming off his line, especially commanding his area. I think he's just better than Kasper Schmeichel in every aspect of goalkeeping almost at the minute. And
Yeah, because there was a couple of times where he came out and beat Chermiti to the ball. That one where Benjamin Arthur, misses the pass and Chermiti's through on goal. Kasper Schmeichel would be sitting in his 6 yard box just waiting on Chermiti to, slot it through. Sinisalo's flying out there like a madman trying to get the ball, and he did. And he did that so many times with his feet and with his hands. He was terrific throughout the game, I thought. And he's I quite liked him in the penalty shootout as well. You could see him talking to the Rangers attackers, shouting at them, trying to get in their heads. He might have done that with Tavernier and Jedi Gassama. I think Gassama was going to miss though before even any of that started. You could see it in his face. But Sinisalo, yeah, he did have a terrific game.
yeah, and even for that one that you mentioned when Benjamin Arthur sort of let it run by him and he missed the ball, to have the anticipation to react to that because no one would have expected that to happen. But he reacted the quickest of anyone to clear it up, and I thought he was really solid and another clean sheet for him since he's came into the team. So I think he has to be the Celtic goalkeeper moving forward. And for Kasper Schmeichel, I don't know if it's still an illness, and more and more doubts creeping into my mind over the legitimacy of this illness and the other possibility that's been floated that he's thrown the toys out the pram because he's no longer the number one option. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to matter too much. I think Celtic have found a better goalkeeper, and I think I expect him to be the starting goalkeeper for the rest of the season. And for the other performer that I would say was a standout for Celtic was Ray Hatate. I thought like Hatate of old, when the ball comes to him, the game sort of slows down in periods. And yeah, I thought he was. They were the few standouts of a really, really poor
I thought
Celtic team.
it was a great battle between him and Chiquani when he came on. You
Yeah,
know, you could see they were, jostling the because you could see what, like, I think Raskin was okay. I think Diamande struggled a little bit. He got that yellow card early, so he was a bit handicapped. But you could see in that second half and the extra time and to Hatate and Chiquani were, the two best midfielders on the pitch, and I really enjoyed that battle between the two of them.
yeah, I agree with you, and I think that might have been a little bit of a mistake from Danny Rowe. I know he tried something different starting with Diamande, but I think Chukwani showed when he came on that he should have probably started the game, and I've really liked the look of him since he's came in. Another January signing or a couple January signings for Rangers, which I think haven't hit the heights as much, would be Scott Olsen and Nadiri. I know Nadiri made some big tackles. He made a really great track back to tackle Julian Araujo. But I just think for I would say for the entirety of the front four for Rangers, when they have so much of the ball, I just don't think they had enough quality, and it's a problem for Rangers because you look at it this game, the amount of injuries Celtic already had, and then you take away their captain, and I would say probably at least one of their best players this season, and Kieran Tierney. Almost everything's set up for Rangers to go and win that match. Danny Rose said it after the game, the amount of shots they had compared to Celtic. But ultimately, it doesn't matter if you can't get the goal and get it over the line. And that's why I was from watching the game. I think I might have said this to you, and that I found that I think these two teams would have been lucky to win the Scottish Cup. Never mind the league title. And there is no way I can see that Rangers team winning the league. And I know Celtic have arguably at Martin Neal's disposal at the minute, I would say a worse level of player. I think Rangers have fielded a better team yesterday and have a better squad. But I just think the mentality Celtic have to keep grinding out results. I know they obviously lost to Hibs, but pretty circumstantial with the red card. I just think there's something weird going on at Celtic. I don't think Celtic will win the league, but I don't think Rangers can get over the hurdles that'll face them between now and the end of the season, especially when almost everything fell in their favour to get the job done on Sunday, and they just couldn't get it over the line. And I think that's why big questions will be thrown Danny Rowe's way now.
Yeah, I mean, the quality in the attacking areas was especially poor. I think maybe one person you could exempt from that who I thought had a good game again is Mikey Moore. But yeah, Chermiti, his link up was dreadful. There was a few times he's trying to look casual, or I don't know, he's trying to be nonchalant or something. Plays some of the worst passes I've ever seen. Uh, you can see that Ryan Naderi has come from the German third tier. I think he has a lot of great physical qualities. Um, he's an immense presser. I just think he needs to work on his quality of play. For the price tag he came in for, you can't. It's unfortunate you can't be given time. I think it was £5 million Rangers paid for Ryan Naderi, so he needs to step up. Andreas Skov-Olsen's been the biggest disappointment of all. He's been especially poor. Um, he just looks like he wants to slow everything down. When he gets on the ball, he can't adjust to the pace. And some of the deliveries as well. There's, don't know if you remember Ethan, that corner that he just hit along the ground.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I do remember that one. Yeah,
so bad. But two January signings, maybe not I think Ryan Naderi's got a bit more, leeway than him because he is a Rangers player, and he's 22 years old. So I think Naderi's got a little bit more leeway, but Scott Wilson's been especially poor. It's a stark contrast with the other two that I think have been resounding successes so far. To Romans, I thought was decent again. Obviously, we mentioned Tochi Chikwani. One, obviously, we're going to talk about the shootout and highlight that Celtic won because it sounds like I'm talking as if Rangers won. But one man that I just wanted to mention, I think he was the best player on the pitch. He looked, that this phrase has been used about him in recent weeks. Looked like he was playing with his slippers on. Emmanuel Fernandez, just so calm, so cool, so collected. His pass selection is almost always correct. He was winning everything in the air. Nasser Giga was good along beside him, but there was times, you know, Fernandez was giving me heart attacks when he was, you know, do, doing Cruyff turns around the Celtic attackers, and but it just looks like he can do whatever he wants when he wants. He can drive out if he wants. He can pass if he wants. He can, skin a couple of players if he wants. I mean, and so his development since he came in to being a bit shaky, but he's good in the air. To me now, he looks like a complete defender. I think's been remarkable.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I thought he was one of the best players, and I would say, thinking of the Rangers' performances as a whole, the two standouts for me were probably the two central defenders, and maybe that is a reflection on how poor Nasser Giga's been over the rest of the duration of his Rangers stint. But I thought he was really good and dealt with the pressure of Daizen Maeda, which we know is not an easy task. And despite Rangers having most of the momentum in the game, I thought they took looked really solid and built a platform for Rangers. As you would say, I think Rangers weren't poor defensively either. I don't think you can give up so little chances and be poor defensively. So I thought that the full
So, do you
back
know?
four
Do you
were
know who? Do you know who was really poor when he came on? John Shooter.
John. So yeah,
Awful, just awful. Um, and I don't know. He signed a contract extension recently, but I think just based off of his recent performances and Nasser Giga's performance, I'd be going with Giga and Fernandez for the remainder of the campaign.
yeah, I would agree with you based on obviously the short cameo we've seen from John Suter in comparison to Nasser Giga's partnership with Emmanuel Fernandez. I would have to agree. And I thought Romans was solid again. Picked up one of the most stupid yellow cards of all time, though I will say. But apart from that, he was really good, and yeah, I think they gave Rangers a platform for the forward thinking players to do almost all they can to help them try and get the victory. Looking at a Celtic point of view, obviously they had to make the big changes at the back. Liam Scales at left back. I thought he had some good moments. I thought he had some less good moments. But obviously they got the job done, and he had to make some defensive contributions. Obviously, Benjamin Arthur I thought was okay. He had a shaky moment in each half, but for the magnitude of being thrown into this game, like I said the other night, speaking about the Aberdeen game, obviously he comes off for Dane Murray, who I think replaced them okay. Didn't do anything special. Didn't do any mistakes. So that's always a good Dane Murray performance. Araujo was solid without being too great. I thought McCowan wasn't really up to much, and I think he needed to come off when he did. Same with Sebastian Tenetke. I think
Well, I don't.
we've
I
seen.
think the position McCown was deployed in was didn't suit him. He was getting caught quite a lot. Um,
Yeah,
he's not. He obviously not many are, but he's not Callum McGregor where he can get out of those tight scenarios where and you can let McGregor be isolated and McGregor will find a way to move the ball forward. Look, McCowan is certainly not Callum McGregor, and that definitely showed.
yeah, exactly that, and yeah, he didn't really adapt to the pressure that Rangers were putting on him, and yeah, I think for the Celtic subs either, not a lot of them covered themselves in glory. Um, Joel and Vuka, I don't really know what Celtic have seen in him to sign him. He looked really poor again, but I think he's the only option really Martin O'Neill's got in that area, apart from James Forrest. They obviously brought on at the same time, and that shows the how much Celtic are struggling in that capacity. So, someone who I did think actually done himself no harm was Paulo Bernardo. I thought he was pretty good when he came on. He put himself about, and yeah, I think he was maybe one of a few subs. But the rest of them didn't do anything. And I think the
No.
worrying thing for Celtic is that of the January signings, the only one that I think is really impressed, and you would say they're going to sign in the summer if they can, is going to be Ilya Araujo.
Yeah. As I mean, I think he got a little bit more joy when Suter got subbed on, but Thomas Chivinchara was just getting absolutely destroyed by Gigan Fernandez as well, wasn't he? Wasn't winning
Yeah,
anything in there.
yeah, he wasn't. And I think I just don't think Celtic are really. I don't know what his strength. I think his strengths are more running in behind. Obviously, that's going to be difficult playing in Scotland. It's not really. It's a bit of a rarity, but I just don't think Celtic really um, play to his strengths. But at the same time, I think he's got to do more and hasn't done enough. So yeah, there'll be a big expectation on him. But yeah, that's I still don't think Martin O'Neill knows his best Celtic team, but we'll obviously see what happens when they start against Motherwell on Saturday.
So it did go to penalties, and I mentioned it earlier in the episode. Rangers took the first penalty, and James Tavernier missed the reliable, the man you'd expect. Missed uh, his first penalty, rattled it off the crossbar. Funnily enough, the only two times that Rangers and Celtic have gone to penalties in the Scottish Cup, James Tavernier has missed both times. strangely enough, 10 years apart, but he repeated the feat. Celtic were confident in their penalties. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain stepped up, slotted his down the middle. Nadeem Bayrami then stepped up. Sinisalo couldn't keep it out. It was just underneath him. Austin Trusty sent Jack Butland the wrong way. A nice penalty from him. Ryan Naderi stepped up, put his away. And Sir Salah was close to that one. Rio Hatate then stepped up. Jack Butland went the same way as last week, but Hatate went in the opposite. A great penalty from him. Diego Gassama then stepped up and sent it into row Z. One of the worst penalties I think I've ever seen. I don't even know why he was taking one. I don't know why Yusuf Chermiti wasn't taking one. But anyway, Diego Gassama blast it. Ethan's laughing at me. Blast it into Rose Ed. And then Thomas Chivinchara stepped up and put it away. Celtic progressed to the Scottish, I nearly said Premier Sports Cup, to the Scottish Cup semi final. Celtic fans then invaded the pitch to celebrate. And this is where it got ugly. The Union Bears then decided to run on and run up to the Celtic fans, a row of police and stewards separating them. Someone jumped from the side and attacked a member of the Celtic coaching staff. Chivinchara was involved with separating that scuffle. An ugly end to the fixture. Obviously, and as well, I think before the game, the, there was one steward. My dad was at the game. There was one steward on the door for three turnstiles that he was going into before the game, and he found out that it was because all the stewards had been diverted to the Broomlin end because before the game, Celtic fans were storming the gates and forcing themselves in. So just a whole concoction of awfulness. I don't know, stupidity, hooligans from both sides, putting a stain on our game. And that's what I said in the intro. I think this weekend sums up the good and the bad of Scottish football.
Yeah, exactly that. And what you said is completely right. That, and I'm going to make the point that I would have loved, and I think everybody loved to see Celtic get that whole stand and go back to previous times. But I think this is why this is never going to be the case again because the misconduct and misbehaviour of both set. Well, I'll say small parts of both sets of supporters have ruined it. The Celtic fans go on the pitch, shouldn't do that, can understand it, and the emotions, wanting to celebrate with the players. I've seen a lot of fans try to get selfies with players and coaching staff, which is fair enough. But you could, I think I heard, and wasn't really paying too much attention, but I imagine some of the Celtic fans antagonised the Rangers supporters. You could only imagine that after they had won the match, which you can only expect that the Union Bears might have something to say about that. And yeah, it just made for quite an ugly scene to an ugly end, sorry, to what was a really well fought and closely contested derby. Before the game, as you said, the Celtic fans rushing the gates isn't good. I think I've seen pictures of the stadium, the Broomloan stand. It doesn't look too good. It looks like there's a lot of broken seats, a lot of sort of stickers being placed, spray paint, and whatever else. So, and then after the game, I've seen some really horrific videos as well of fights across the city. I think there was one video that a lot of people have seen, and luckily that Celtic fan is now okay. But that was the one video we've seen of probably tens of and maybe hundreds of altercations that happened across the city, and it's just things that are taken too far. We understand it's a derby, and we pride ourselves as having the best derby in the world, but sometimes people take it too far, and a small minority has ultimately ruined it for everyone, and any chance of getting that allocation again. So yeah, I think there'll be big fallout from this, and rightfully so, because it needs to be dealt with, and the authorities like the SPFL and the SFA need to make sure stuff like this doesn't happen again. So yeah, disappointing end, but I think nobody was majorly hurt, fortunately, which is the main thing. So yeah, but pretty unsavoury scenes at the end of at the end at Ibrox.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it was a sad end to what should have been an advert for getting the away allocations for supporters back to what it has been. But yeah, like Ethan said, I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. There's before it was just pettiness and that was enough. Now there's actual real argument to say that for safety reasons that it shouldn't go ahead like this. So yeah, that is that.
But do you think it used to be like this? Is this a new thing, or was it on the previous allocation when both sides had a larger allocation at each ground? I don't remember these problems really coming up. So yeah, I don't know. I think obviously the Celtic fans going onto the pitch does sort of inspire that, but you see that all the time at other grounds. I think um, I think the Celtic fans just need to be a wee bit more wise to know that if they're going to go on the pitch, then there is the always the chance that the Union Bears, and I'll say the Union Bears and not the Rangers fans, because I think it's an unfair message to call it the Rangers fans as a collective going on the pitch. I know there was a few probably that weren't Union Bears, but yeah, yeah, we just can't have
I'm
nice
sure
things sometimes.
I'm sure there's a few members of the Union Bears who didn't participate either. It's just
Yeah, no, you're completely right.
individuals who have taken it upon themselves to behave in an unlawful manner, to behave in a crass manner, to ruin the day for so many. And yeah, just a terrible advert. It was funny actually, because during the week I saw a video. It was about talking about when Rangers won the league at Celtic Park, when that referee got hit in the head with a coin, when someone fell from the top tier at Celtic Park, and there were fights and fans trying to invade the pitch. The Rangers players doing a huddle in the middle of Celtic Park, inciting the violence, that sort of thing. Um, and it was funny actually. I was thinking about that after and going, we've almost had like you know a reverse of that. Obviously the Celtic players didn't do anything to incite violence from the Rangers supporters, but I just mean in terms of how bad it's kind of turned out. We've almost had a reverse of that. Um,
Yeah.
years on. I mean, I think that incident was before me and you were born, so um, not much has changed.
Yeah. Yeah, well, forgive me for saying that. I didn't remember it being too much of a big thing, but from my experiences of going to the games with a bigger away allocation for Rangers, I never really had any of those problems at the game, and I don't remember too many of them at Ibrox. But I think, I don't know, I think for the most part, I would like to say it's probably people that are older than us, mind you, and about ages with us, but immature fans who are just doing the wrong things. But unfortunately, they make up a large part of each team's support. They have a large voice in each team's support when it comes to the two supporters' organisations. So, yeah, unfortunate, but we'll move on. And as I said, luckily, no one seems to have been majorly injured, which is always the main thing when it comes to these kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. We are moving on now to the last quarter final of the weekend. St Mirren versus Partick Thistle at the Smiza, and St Mirren did get the job undone. Dan and Lindeloo with the opening goal, a penalty in the 33rd minute. I've seen a bit of controversy around this decision.
Yeah,
Maybe we can go through that. Jake Young then doubled their advantage in the 47th minute. Ben Stanway then pulled one back in the 61st for Partick Thistle, but it wasn't enough, and St Mirren did progress to the Scottish Cup semi final. They're back in Hampden for the second time this season, and we have a rematch of the Premier Sports Cup final. The two teams are in much different places, I would say, than they were back then. But really, really,
well, I don't know about that. Not really. St Mirren was still a poor team in the league then, and Celtic was still a poor team then. There's not. I understand that. I understand the point you're making.
yeah, but it
Obviously,
was Wilfred Nancy.
yeah, I know, but well, yes, but okay, no, I agree with the point you're making. A completely different manager, a manager who's installed a winning mindset, regardless of the performance levels, and then obviously St Mirren, I think, have even lowered their levels in league terms since winning the League Cup. But no, what an excellent achievement for St Mirren to get to Hampden on three occasions in a season is excellent, and it doesn't take away from the fact of how poor the league form's been, and the St Mirren fans won't let Stephen Robinson and the players forget that certainly. But this is a day to look forward to, an opportunity to cause another upset. And like we said, I think all the teams left in the competition have a really good chance of winning it. But I thought St Mirren were good in this game to start, especially. I thought it was maybe an even first half, but towards the end of the first half, I thought St Mirren really put their stamp on the game. They obviously got the penalty, which, as you said, I think it's really harsh on Robbie Crawford. His arms out, but it's sort of in his body. It's not really making himself bigger. I would say they obviously went to send
Well,
David
there
Dickinson
was
to
there was a
VR.
similar decision in the Rangers game earlier in the day. It hit Austin Trusty's arm, but it was tucked like into his body. It was in front of his body shape. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That wasn't given, so I don't see like the thing is we've asked for years. Like we just want consistency. Like if there's hard and fast, then you know what's going to happen. You know what the decision's going to be because it was given similarly. Fine, that's absolutely fine. The rules can be harsh as long as they're harsh all the time. The rules can be lax as long as they're lax all the time. You, it just feels like they make decisions on whatever they want, whatever they feel like on the day. You know what I mean? It's frustrating.
Yeah, what it was, and yeah, I completely agree that I don't think this needed to be a penalty, especially off what they've not given recently. And yeah, a poor decision and ultimately one that probably, well, not ruined Partick Thistle's chances, but certainly might have been a different game had the penalty not been given. But credit to Daniel Ndulu, he steps up and in Bruno Fernandes esque fashion with the hop, skip, and the jump penalty. Sends Clark the wrong way. And yeah, I think they looked comfortable towards the end of the half. St Mirren, obviously, Marcus Fraser went off as well. Looked like a shoulder pull, so not a great week for him after scoring the own goal the other night. Hopefully, well, St Mirren will be hoping well, hopefully for his own sake, but St Mirren will be hoping as well that he can make a recovery and be back for that massive game because obviously he did score against Celtic in the League Cup final. Richard King came on, but St Mirren got a second in injury time of the first half. Jake Young, really nice finish, and he looks like he's been a decent find for St Mirren so far. They obviously picked him up in January. He's got a few goals. Then Partick Thistle looked the better of the teams in the second half. St Mirren back to what we've been used to recently, and Mark Wilson's team really unfortunate, probably not to come away with at least extra time. Ben Stanley gets the goal and puts nerves around Paisley for half an hour, but yeah, really important win for St Mirren, and ultimately, if they go on to do incredible things in this Scottish Cup run as well as they did in the League Cup, nobody's going to remember their performance in this game. Mark Wilson will be really disappointed in the result, but I think he'll be proud of what his players achieved, and I think this maybe gives us a taste of what's to come. These two teams very much in the possibility of being in that Scottish Premiership playoff come the end of the season. So that could have been a dress rehearsal on the night. And although St Mirren took the victory, there was very little between the two sides.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I like that idea of a dress rehearsal for the playoff. It very well could be St Mirren versus Partick Thistle when we get to that time period. Um,
You know who else likes that idea? Laurie.
yeah, Laurie's sitting there going, "Yes, not Kilmarnock. We've still got some football to go yet. We'll see, we'll see." No, but yeah, Partick Thistle, I think, are a side that um, you would back to come up in the playoffs, even if the title still a possibility. I think it's drifted a little bit in recent weeks, just because I think they've shown they're a bit. St Johnstone do drop points, but I think Partick Thistle have shown they're a bit more susceptible to drop points more frequently than their title rivals. So it definitely will be interesting. Um, but I think if they do end up in the playoffs, I think you could back them to make it to the playoff final. I love the playoffs. I don't. I just especially the ones the playoff final, the Premiership sides against the up and coming Championship side. It's always great. I mean, I'll always say one of the best games I've ever watched, two-legged ties, was Ross County Partick Thistle a couple of years ago. It was absolutely incredible. I loved it. I mean, I was up here watching it in my room, and I think my family was over for a gathering or something. I'm like, I can't come downstairs and watching this game. It was, that sounds pretty sad saying it out loud, but it was gripping. And I'm excited for the playoffs this year. Hopefully, for Laurie's sake, Killie aren't in it. But if they are, I'll be watching excitedly as well, and messaging them, laughing at them if they go down. Um,
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. For Partick Thistle, I think we've all said that Mark Wilson's done an excellent job since the start of the season, and to even have them in the running. And if they were to bounce back and get a win on Friday at Green at Morton, they then put the pressure on St Johnstone. Then they face St Johnstone the following Friday at home. If they were to win those two matches, then they could be, what would that be? That would be, what, 5 points behind with a game in hand. And then they play their game in hand the following Tuesday away at Raith Rovers. So if they win those next three games, and that's a big if. Obviously, we know how difficult it is to be consistent and make a run in the championship. But if they were to do that, then they'd be just 2 points behind Simo Valakari's side. So they're certainly well in with a shout. But as you said, I think St Johnstone are probably the favourites and have been for almost the whole duration of the season.
Yeah, yeah, they are. So we that'll do it for the quarter final chat. Um, and we have two semis we want to briefly talk about. Obviously, we've already mentioned the teams involved: Falkirk versus Dunfermline and Celtic versus St Mirren at Hampden for the opportunity to progress to the Scottish Cup final. Um, I think that this is the best, scenario of the teams that progressed, the best outcome you could hope for in terms of a draw. You've got a derby on one side and you've got a rematch of a cup final on the other side. I mean, there's story behind it, there's intensity, and it's just I think we have two good semi-finals to look forward to. Um, and like I said earlier, I feel like anything could happen.
Yeah, it certainly could. Obviously, as I said earlier, and I think you would agree, Celtic will be the majority favourites as the biggest side left in it. But that's not to say that they're going to go on and win it because they've obviously struggled against St Mirren this season at Hampden. Martin O'Neill will want to right the wrongs of his predecessor, you could say, Wilfred Nancy. Um, but that'll not be easy because St Mirren, I think, their two best performances of the season have came at Hampden, both against Motherwell and Celtic in the League Cup, and then obviously a rivalry in the other semi-final will be excellent. I do fancy the favourites to go through in both games. I think Falkirk and Celtic will go through, but I could easily see Dunfermline and St Mirren possibly picking
I'm
up
I'm back.
the
I'm
result.
back in Dunfermline.
Are you?
Yeah. So this is
But
my
are you back?
thought process here, right? So my Falkirk versus Dunfermline, St Mirren versus Celtic. Celtic, I think, will progress to the final. I just think St Mirren are they're just too poor to win at the moment. I know Celtic are poor as well, but I think Celtic will have enough to get past this St Mirren team. On the other side, I don't know. I just feel like Dunfermline. Every logical bone in my body saying go for Falkirk. There's just something about Dunfermline in this run. I think Dunfermline will get over, get under, get round Falkirk somehow and get to the Scottish Cup final. I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to back Neil Lennon against his old side to
His
take.
old manager as well.
Eh?
His old manager as well.
Yeah, his old manager, his old side to take home the Scottish Cup to East End Park. You heard it here first on the dugout. Get your bets on right now.
Oh, that is a crazy prediction. But
Please,
you know
please
they've
gamble
already
responsibly.
yeah, yeah, please do. So they've already knocked out two massive clubs this season. So yeah, it's not out of the realms of possibility. But I'm going to be boring. I expect Falkirk to beat Dunfermline, although I think the Pals will make it difficult for them. And then I expect Celtic to make beat St Mirren, although I think Celtic will. Well, I'll say St Mirren will make it difficult for them, but it may just be Celtic making it difficult for themselves. And then Celtic v Falkirk in the final will be interesting, but I don't want to talk about that yet because, you know, it's too far down the line. We need to see who gets to the final first, but it will be two
You heard it.
entertaining.
You heard it here first. Dunfermline on penalties in the Scottish Cup final. I'm gonna go.
On penalties now. But no, that would be excellent, even if Dunfermline were to get to the final, because that'd be the second time in the space of, what would be, 4 years, yeah, or five. no, 5 Scottish Cup seasons that Celtic have played a championship side in the Scottish Cup final. So, yeah, that would be an excellent advert for Scottish football and why the Scottish Cup's a great opportunity for everyone to compete. And I think that's what we've seen this season with some poor teams that have played against Dunfermline, but all credit to Neil Lennon and his side who, like Partick Thistle, might fancy themselves in the playoffs to come up. I don't think they'll have enough, but you never know.
Maybe it's all going down to the wire in Scottish football this season, and we'll be joining you again week after week until the season ends for some exciting action. Um, this week there will be hopefully be a couple of more guest episodes coming out. So stay tuned for that. I've just been continuing my chats about fan culture. So hopefully you tuned in last week to the chat with Can. It was really good. We didn't only talk about fan culture. We talked about some other things, football in general. So I'd recommend going over to check that out. He was a terrific guest. So hopefully there'll be a couple more guest episodes coming your way this week. Make sure to go and check out the TikTok and the Twitter. Go please like and subscribe. Follow us on all platforms. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think we can do to improve. Thank you all for watching and listening. Goodbye.